Hi everyone, I'm Amber. Today we are going to be doing a movie review and we're going to be reviewing Priscilla. So this is Priscilla Presley's story. She is the main character. Elvis is more of a side character. Um and first off, I wanted to say I found the actress that played Priscilla quite beautiful. And I love um that she had this natural beauty to her, because as she started adding the hair and the makeup and the extensions or whatever they were and dyeing it, it's just like all this heaviness, all this blocky clothing and all this weight of like the fame on top of her, on her look, like her natural beauty just was taken away. It was masked by all the makeup, by everything. You weren't able to see it. And then at the end, where she has her baby, and it's been some time, obviously, you see her more with her natural hair and everything, but she's much older. They make her look a lot older, and they did very well on that, like adding a little bit of like wrinkles, and she had like some very subtle bags under her eyes. And you think back to the beginning of the movie when she was so young, she had like that natural beauty, and she's still very beautiful. And it's like she kind of went back to that, but then now she's older and she's been through things, and obviously, she so desperately wanted her relationship with Elvis to work. She got together with him when she was underage. She was very, very young. She needed her parents' permission to date him. She met him, like, I think at a party, if I remember correctly. And then he was very taken by her, and he asked if, like, she can go on dates. She had to keep her grades up. It showed that she cheated her way through school to be able to be with him. And I don't know how much of this story is true, but they must have done enough research to be able to make it as accurate as possible. And so, yeah, you kind of see her disintegrate as a person and become this, like, begging individual, this pleasing individual, where it's like, um, she desperately wants to be with him, and then she kind of learns how to, like, there's this one scene where he's like, I need a break from you, and she's like pregnant, and she's like newly pregnant. He's like, I think it's just kind of messing with my music, and she's just like, okay. And you see in that instant that she's kind of learned, like, that this is kind of a way to like manipulate him, and like him rethink, like, oh, she's okay with it. Like, she's like, yeah, I'll send for my bags, and like, yeah, I'll be out of here, don't worry about it. And then she walks away like all confident, and that in turn makes him be like, no, I want you to stay. Like, and it's such a powerful scene. It was such a beautifully crafted, very sad movie. But like, it's so interesting because she's in this toxic relationship, this toxic situation, and she knows how to get her way, but then she doesn't get out of it. And it's just very, very sad. Eventually, you know, like, we knew that Elvis like abused her, and there was incidents, where she might have been hit, or almost hit. Um, but I thought the dynamic between them sexually was really interesting, because he treated her very, like, at first loving with that and caring, and like, like, he wanted to do things properly, but then it kind of also became that he also didn't want to do it with her after a while, and then started doing it with other girls. And she became very aware of that, and she became like, oh, like, I know my husband, like, I know what he's doing and everything. And she was just living her life, and spending the money however, she wasn't abusing of it at that point. I think when she was older, it was more so when she was younger, and Elvis kind of had, like, opinions about like what she was wearing. He said, oh, you should do this with your hair. She did it with her hair, and it was just like he was molding her into this individual, and then she kind of molded herself into this strong, independent woman who was still married to him. um but kind of still using that to her advantage. Um, and then when she said, we should break up and everything, like at that point, she was confident and everything. She was no longer like begging for his like approval and anything. And it was her time to let go. I mean, obviously, like she should have let go a long time ago. But at that point, I think she was very secure in herself. But she had been through stuff. And that's the sad part, that she had to go through all that to reach that. Like, I would have loved for her, as an individual, because obviously, this is the story and this is how I went. But, like, I would have loved for her to, as a kid, be able to, like, be like, no, like, this is not okay. And, like, grow, after that. But that was not the case. So it's like one of those things where it's like you have to experience something really, really bad to like really shape you and mold you, and you become this person. But unfortunately, after the strong person, after you've been through hell and back. And like there, I wasn't sure about like, I wanted some more insight on like Elvis' relationship with his daughter, because at first she was like, no, 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 I don't want to take a picture with him. And then she was like, Daddy. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think the dad is around as much, obviously. And then we knew that Elvis really loved Priscilla, even though he treated her the way he did, because he became, he was always talking about her. He was really depressed without her. But it's like, then why treat someone you love like that? Obviously, you need to get your stuff together. And then it kind of just ends there, with her driving away after like leaving him. And then she leaves the house. She leaves like everyone that like truly cared about her there and wanted her well-being, um and obviously knew how Elvis was and everything, but they were like working for him. And yeah, I thought it ended beautifully. I would have liked to have seen maybe like more of her life before, or like more of her life after, or like how Elvis was after her. But I think that it ended well because we got to see her story, for the time that she was with Elvis. And that is, you know, what we come to know as, or want to know as, her story. But then when you think about it, there's much more to her than just her time with Elvis. There's much more to her as an individual. Um, so that's also kind of sad. I like that we didn't get a lot of Elvis because, it's Elvis. I like that we primarily focused on her, her interactions with people and her family, and with him, but also just kind of with like others around her. It wasn't just like so much their relationship, it was kind of like seeing how her life was affected and those around her who loved her were affected as a result of this. And yeah, it's just a really, really, really sad movie. But like I said, I think it was so well done, and you got to see the passage of time really happen in a natural way. At first I was like, oh, we're like, she's dressing like, it was literally through her dress, how she dressed. Oh, we're dressing differently. Like, oh, okay, we must be in a different time period now. Her hair looks different, she looks older. Like, it just was like, you know it was seamless in that. And at the end, Elvis is not really around and everything. And when he wants her, he calls for her, and then they go and they get her. And then they're like, oh, your husband wants you. And at that point, she's just like, I'll be right back. Like, it's not going to take long. And they're not intimate with each other anymore. She kind of just is like, what do you want? And at that point, their relationship is ending, and that's when he wants her. And then it's just like, nah, like, and then like, you're obviously on something or drunk or whatever, and like, you're not thinking straight. You want me when you want me. Like, that's not fair. um and I think that her her iconic like black hair was done very well, but it was also done in a way, like I said, it looked a lot on her. It looked heavy. Uh it looked like a costume on her. And this was when many people recognized her looking like, and it's just like, no, this wasn't her. Underneath, she was just this little girl, and the time that they finally like are intimate with each other is like after their wedding day, and then she immediately gets pregnant. Like, she has no real childhood. Like, she goes to visit Elvis, and then she goes to bed early, and people are like making fun of her because it's like, oh, she's a little girl, she has to go to bed on time. And she is a little girl. Like, she should not be in these situations. And the poor thing is like, nobody is saying that this is wrong. Everyone's kind of going along with it, and then they're making fun of her, and it's just so unfortunate. And then nobody says anything when he's like throwing things at her or like getting mad at her. Like, she had to like step up for herself. And it's really, really messed up. Um, and it's such a toxic relationship that just becomes even more toxic as time goes on in different ways. And it's just like, you know, even though he may not see her, he may not hit her all the time. It's just like the relationship is built off of so much hurt at the end, and it's so much anger and frustration. It wasn't gonna work out. At the end there was like nothing for her anymore. She was exhausted, she was wasted, she was used. And then that's when he suddenly flipped and he wanted her back. And it's just like, no, like, you had all this time, and clearly you were very infatuated with her in the beginning, but then you like used her and abused her and like cheated on her. But also, like, how brutal of her parents to allow, like, it seemed like her parents loved her and they wanted her to find love, but it's like, and be love and be happy. And at the beginning, they were telling her, maybe, it's not meant to be if he doesn't call you back for a long time. She was like waiting for him to call back and everything, and he just didn't. And they were like, maybe, he found someone else, and it's a good thing, and like, you can move on. And but like, something about it just felt like they had no choice. But it was still really messed up of them to just be like, yeah, like, go for it. um it just was a really crazy situation. Must have been like put in a corner with like her feelings and her emotions, and the fact that he was like so famous and everything. It was such a really real, truthful way of telling, and raw way of telling her story without adding anything that was unnecessary. It really focused on, I think, what was important. Um and it felt to me like I was just watching her life. It didn't feel like I was watching a documentary. It didn't feel like I was watching something with extra add-ons and emphasis and, you know, drama and things that didn't happen. And it felt legit, and I really appreciated that. And that made it all the more terrible of a situation to be watching and seeing. Just, you know, so sad for her. So yeah, that's my review. I can go on and on about how sad this movie is, but yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all soon. Bye.